Welcome to the Vision Board Mastery Training. I am super grateful that you have decided to take some time for yourself and join me in this container to really map out and get clear on what you want to bring into your life, regardless at what point of the year you are watching this training. So, if you would be so kind, please let me know your name, where you're watching from, and what your hope is for this container. So just before we get started, I want to show you the PDF that is this training and let you know that a lot of the links in here will be clickable. So the very first example here is this replay page, which you've gotten. And anytime you want to come back and watch this, you can just go ahead and click right here and it'll take you right to this training and let you start from wherever you want at that point. So let's start off with what we're going to do today and what this is not. This training is not for just gaslighting you and filling you with energy for right now and then sending you on your way. This training is so important to me that you take what you need from here and are able to take those strategies and implement them into actionable steps. Okay. This isn't about hype culture, giving you the fluffies, giving you the good feels, even though that is going to happen. There are tangible things in here I hope you take with you and go ahead and start mapping out that craving you have for that life you were destined to have while you're here. So today's agenda, as you have laid out, I have laid out for you right here. We're going to be covering the three biggest manifesting mistakes I have made in the past, and I see other people make every January without fail. We're going to cover some simple, not easy, mindset shifts that are going to take you from repelling the things you desire to becoming in alignment and an attraction machine for those beautiful things that you dream about every day. Then we're going to talk about how your vision board actually works with your calendar and your calendar supports your vision board. We're also going to take that whole calendar, turn it on its head. It's going to be a little bit different than what you're used to, but stay with me. I promise I'll explain it all. And then my hope is that once you have all these pieces, it'll help you get grounded and ultimately remove that lack energy that holds us back from acquiring the things we want in our life. And those things are not just material things, but what we want to feel and who we want to be in the tomorrow. So I'm sure you are ready to dive in, but before we start, I just wanted to share my story with you and how I got here and how I've come to the conclusions that I have. So, very quickly, this is a timeline of my life to this day. I have spent most of my years in survival mode. I was born in Poland and things weren't great back then. My parents had to leave us with strangers, and as a 5-year-old child, that created some serious security issues and put me into survival mode up until less than a decade ago when I really got working on myself. We lived in a refugee camp in Germany and then eventually made our way to Canada, unable to speak the language, completely out of our cultural element. I was taking care of my little brother at a very young age while my parents tried to work. And then I ended up kind of blowing up my life and I was kicked out at 17. So I have been on my own since 17. It's been all about survival. I lost the ability to dream about tomorrow at the age of 5. That is probably a little before that is the last time I remember dreaming and being playful and imaginative up until, like I said, quite recently. when you look at my life. So, what did that cause? Well, that left me in a whole heap of depression that I was in denial about for a really long time. So I quickly go ahead and started numbing and using alcohol and drugs to do that. I started blaming everyone and everything, my circumstances, including my relationships. And that just snowballed and repeated itself to more failed relationships and more feeling of abandonment and setting things up that when they leave, it would be okay because I've already built this huge wall around me that is, 3 walls deep and 100 feet tall, so nobody could get in forever. And then eventually, I met my current spouse who somehow chipped his way through most of that wall, and I started to get the all American dream, right? I had the spouse, we bought the house, I had the full time corporate job with an amazing salary, fantastic people. I was amazing at my job. I had a baby finally. It took us a while, but I had my babies, which, if you're a mother already, you know that joy. If you struggle to become pregnant, you know the relief that comes with that. And you'd think your heart was full and complete, especially living in such a survival mode, but I still wasn't able to dream. I still wanted more. I'd go to work, and even though I loved my job, there was still something in the back of my head saying, "This isn't it. This isn't over. There's more for you. You've got to push ahead. You got to get out of here. You got to move on." I didn't listen. I spent 21 years with the company and actually ended up hurting myself on the job. And I hurt myself to the point where the company could no longer accommodate me and I had to be let go. Honestly, guys, that is the ultimate manifestation. I knew I wanted to leave. I knew there was more. I couldn't take the plunge. So the universe lined things up to force me into it. Manifestation isn't always sunshine and rainbows. We literally manifest even the bad situations in our life, as far as I'm concerned. That is my belief. We literally are in charge of what we attract. So I hurt myself, and that led us to the entrepreneurial journey full time. Just before that, me and my spouse actually started a construction company that's now been running for 15 years. So that has been amazing. And once I had more time, I was able to dive into the things that were more about time freedom, which was my ultimate goal. Like that is the thing that I strive for is time freedom. The reason I want to make money is because I want time freedom. The reason I want time freedom is because I want to do whatever I want to do. So I dove into the digital space. I started doing social media management, which I still do on the side. Um, but while I was doing social media management, a lot of the time, my relationship with my clients transitioned into accountability and kind of looking over their schedules. And I really loved it. I love organizing. I love investigating. I'm a 5-1 generator through and through if you're into human design. With the extra time, I was able to focus on my health. I had been struggling with Crohn's disease for over a decade. I finally have cured that. I joined an MLM company that I absolutely adore their products that has contributed to my health. Things are starting to fall into place. And while that happened, I finally was able to start dreaming. I don't know exactly when. There was a point where I'd wake up and I was like, oh, that was different. That wasn't the past replaying. That was something unknown. And as I allowed myself that curiosity, I started to dream and I started to vision board and I started to vision cast, not very successfully at first because of the survival mode and because of the fear. but you can't be an expert right from the start. So I started and I kept on trying, and there was like 6 vision boards I made the 1 year because I kept pivoting, and my dreams were starting to grow and the possibilities were starting to increase. So that is my story. And so now I want to ask what your story is. Let me know in the comments or send me a DM. I want to know what your journey was. Now, I do have a guess. I could be wrong, but here's what I'm thinking. As a child, you probably envisioned a life full of purpose and passion. The success that's available to you. The world seemed, for lack of better words, and not to sound cliche, but a blank canvas, right? Like, what's more aspirational than just a blank sheet of paper that you can do whatever you can possibly imagine with? But then you start to get older and life unfolds. You notice that the path of your dream isn't like the Disney story where it's a pretty straight path, and that obstacles do hop in and out, making it a little harder. You have more responsibilities and obligations, the twists and turns of adulthood. And the dream you wanted started to become distant, and you no longer felt aligned with those aspirations you had as a child that used to play pretend and make believe all the time. Now, if you're like many, you went on a quest to reconnect with those aspirations. You've potentially tried a couple of different careers or side hustles. You've started your entrepreneurial endeavors, and along the way, tasted a little bit of success, right? You've seen the hope, you've seen the light, and in that light is where we get this yearning for growth and evolution, and we're inspired to finally move forward. We're energized, we're activated. The only problem is that can become very overwhelming if you don't know where to start and you don't have a map to keep you on track. This is why we're here today. Your vision board and the steps leading up to it will actually craft that roadmap to help you achieve those dreams that you held so dear and so hard in your heart as a child. All right, if you're with me, type in the chat, what is your goal for this year or maybe just this quarter? I want to know. Type it in, share it with us. Okay, so for this class, you will get these sheets and access to the templates for the vision boards completely free. There, you can access these templates with the free Canva version. So you will get this. These are all clickable, like I said before, and you'll have access to all of these to print them. And then the Canva template, you just click on it, pick whichever you want, delete the rest, or perhaps you want to create 4 different ones for 3 to 4 areas of your life that you want to focus on this year. Great. So here is what I want to kick us off with. I want to share with you how I have tweaked my process to align with my natural energy. It's a little bit different. And let me know in the chat if you've felt this, if you've read this, if you align with this as we talk. You might have noticed um, a personal resistance in your energy and just how motivated you are in January when we're all supposed to be into the new year, new you, like the flip of the page is some magical wand that is just going to change everything for us. Or maybe you're at this point that you're looking at that and that expectation from society of the new you is actually bringing you shame because you've fallen off the wagon, or you've completely given up, or maybe you didn't even bother because it's just so overwhelming in January to create these unattainable goals that we set for ourselves, and then we never even plan for them. So right here is the earliest Roman calendar. Okay, it's only got 10 months because January and February were actually months of hibernation. And before this calendar, there was actually 13 months, 28 days each. Women, now you see how your menstrual cycle lines up with the moon and our calendars way back in the day. So, this has been in plain sight how things have been altered on us, okay? Just looking at this graphic here, the words themselves tell us that our calendar is not wrong. January is not the first month of our year, and December is not the 12th because December, from the Latin word 10, as in the 10th month, November actually comes from the Latin term 9, the 9 months. So as you can see, this has always been right in front of us, letting us know that something was off. What the heck does this have to do with your dreams, right? Like, why are we even talking about this? We're trying to do a vision board, plan things out. Let me just grab a drink. Well, like I just mentioned, January and February are hibernation months. Those 2 months are actually ideal for closing out the previous year, right? You reflect in January what went right, what went wrong, where did you fall short, where did you implement things that you're going to blueprint and incorporate for the rest of, you know, whatever timeline works for you for whatever stage of life you're in. It is slow, it is peace, it is calm, it's home cooking and comfort food and couch snuggles with your kids. We take February and you start to dream, the days are getting a little bit longer. You have a little bit more energy for a longer span of time. Like, let me know in the comments. In January, I'm ready for bed at 6 o'clock. It's pitch black by 4:30. Like, I have nothing left by 6 o'clock. I'm exhausted. That is nature talking to us. We are meant to draw in, be with ourselves. So you take February, you're starting to get a little bit more energized. You can start thinking about the future, start dreaming, right? You've reflected and cleaned out last year. You've pulled the weeds. Now it's time to start thinking, okay, well, if those weeds are gone, what needs to happen for the next thing to happen? And as you rest and receive, you got to remember that these 2 months energetically, don't worry about what the calendar's telling you and what TV's telling you and Hallmark and commercialism. It's not the time to start burning the candle at both ends and starting projects and pushing. It's time just to plan. Just if you were a farmer, you wouldn't be planting seeds right now or pulling crops. This isn't the time. Nature is our teacher. Nature shows us what stage we're supposed to be in. So then we hop over and we start here, right? March and April, time of renewal, planting, micro plans, setting the stage, getting into alignment with the goals and dreams that we're starting to download in us during our rest stage. May and June, your activation. I find that these 2 months are very big for me in health and in business. I am revved up. I'm ready to go in my business. And when it comes to my health, I want to get back outside, start eating fresh produce, a lot less frozen because here in Canada, it's so cold. I freeze a lot of the stuff that I grow through the summer. July and September, continued activation of our goals from May and June. We are in the integration process. We're really diving in deep. We're selling in our business. We're teaching. We're out in nature, absorbing the sun for our nutrition. We're making memories And as the summer winds down, the kids go back to school, right? You start to get into that sweater weather, the coziness. For me, it becomes the activation of the feminine, right? The relationship, the home, the heart, spending time with the kids, having a routine, detoxing, cleaning things out, preparing for hibernation once again. So, like I said, we're going to flip things on their head. It's a little unorthodox, but let me know in the comments. Do you feel this? Like, do you feel now that you see it energetically how you felt this month and how you look at the past year of how your energy flowed? Do you see how it aligns with the calendar as it was versus what it has become? Let me know. So these are the conversations we're having in the Life Lab Masterclass, okay? And when we get together quarterly in here, we dive deep into the engineering of the kind of day that protects what matters most to us based on the new renewed focus. We really dive into the what needs to happen for that to happen. That is the ultimate question in there so that we can set ourselves up for success. It's a private group. We're in a container that you only get access to if you purchase the program. So, this is a safe space so that we can share things, we can look for support to each other, and go have a place for accountability. Tell me in the comments, let me know. Do you know what type of accountability person you are? I have external accountability. I need to set things up for myself outside of myself to make myself do it. Like, for example, it's as simple as having a list. Having a list and the satisfaction and the need and the desire to cross things off has become a great tool for my accountability. Again, these are the things we're going to be discussing in the Life Lab Mastery. So if you're interested, again, clickable buttons, you can hop in that group, have access to it, and all the things plus more. We actually are starting with a time audit, which I highly recommend you do, even if you don't join the program. And then we really look at how we spend our weekly 168 hours and what our opportunity costs are within that. I personally love to do this every quarter. The very first one I do is very deep, but because seasons change and our energy changes, as we just discussed in the previous slide, our time is going to change on what we spend it on. So that's why I encourage people to do the time audit quarterly. Once we do that, we start highlighting and color coding, and it becomes very clear the theme and the story that is on our calendar. This is so eye opening, and I've had clients that get quite frustrated. Um, but these are the shadows that we need to face to be able to move forward, right? When you take an honest audit of your time, it's not going to be anything like you imagined. Every minute matters when you're creating this, and you're going to be shocked at the opportunity cost from that time audit. So, while we meet quarterly in the private Facebook group for the Life Lab Mastery, I'm going to help you make sure you don't become overwhelmed. We're going to learn how to put the big rocks in first before we put the sand. If you know that analogy, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, let me know in the comments. I'm happy to send you a link and explain it to you. It's a fantastic analogy for our priorities. All right. Here are the three major categories of focus for which we will gather inspiration while we do our vision board. Keep in mind that all three do not take center stage at the same time. As the seasons shift, as our energy shifts, these move around in priority in our day to day. So some of these are more masculine energy, which would be your business and careers, and then your feminine energy, your family and relationships. Um, And then this one's kind of a mix of both. So in self-care and personal development, this encapsulates, physical body care, emotional care, mental care, spiritual care, but also your knowledge, your skills. We cover all that, and that takes center stage at a certain time, typically in the hibernation stage and at the end of the year, December-ish. The family one, this is the fall, right? The feminine energy, relationships with our spouse, our family, our kids, friends. This also does include networking because networking isn't about a sale. Networking is about service. Okay. And then down here, we have the most masculine of the energies, your business or your career, right? So growing, expanding, greater finances, building out your business plan, all happens in here. And this takes center stage, just after the spring when we're really activated. The days are long, we have a ton of energy. This is where this becomes the center stage. Okay, this is vital to getting into alignment and getting out of repulsion. For starters, create an environment around you that is serene. Your physical space has a great impact on your mental space, right? So if we see clutter, we feel clutter. It's important to have a spot in your home that is tranquil for you. These, again, very clickable. This is where we're starting. Okay, we need to reflect on the story of last year, like I mentioned. You can't just come in and start creating goals and mapping out a vision without stripping and pulling out all the weeds, all the gunk that was tying up your energy, where you're leaking energy, where you're in toxic situations and keeping you out of alignment. So take an honest look and inventory of what's working and what's not. You can go ahead and print these, answer the questions. I've also included this brain declutter. There's things that we don't want in our life. This could be emotional, physical, whatever. I like to have this because sometimes we get stuck on what we truly want. But if we work backwards, it helps some people to really see what they do want. So I have created a space here to really put down things you no longer want in your life. Okay. Like I'll give you an example. For me on this list this year was I no longer want to take things personally when my kids don't want to spend time with me. I don't want that. I instead want to take pride that my kids are independent and know what they want. So it was really hard to see the want until I addressed the I didn't want. So I really do love the sheet. Print a couple of them because you can work in different areas of your life with this. It's one of my favorite exercises is to work backwards. It sounds counterintuitive, but it works so well. And this even works when you're cleaning out your closet, which we'll be going into during our declutter challenge later on in the spring. So hopefully you'll join us for that. Mindset shifts. So again, these are simple. They are not easy, like I mentioned before. We want to switch from what we want to get to who we want to be. You want to get money, okay? That a lot of the time has a very lack energy to it because you don't have it. Now, if you could focus on who you want to be, if you had that money, that creates a different vibration that comes out of you. If I have that money, I have time freedom. And that instantly, just saying that, relaxes my body. Okay. We want to switch from ego based manifesting. So, like, I want to win the lottery. I want to lose 10 pounds at the end of the week to heart and soul manifestations. And that's emotions. That's a feeling, right? Freedom, vibrant health, warmth, safety. These are the things that evoke emotions, and we really become magnetized with or attached and magnetic to the things we're asking of the universe. The universe of, am I okay? So, to help your brain make these shifts, we want to stay aware and make adjustments as our brain is doing its thing. So, when your brain's off on a tangent, I want you to start teaching it to make decisions from your future self. Okay. We do this with our kids all the time, right? Like, my daughter, they go to school and it's 7 degrees today and she doesn't want to wear a coat because it's nice. But I know her future self at lunch is going to be thankful that I made her take a coat because they're out in an open field. And when that wind hits you, it is like 15 degrees colder than the thermostat says. Future self decision. Which brings us back to that original question that I said we're going to really focus in on in the Life Lab Mastery. What needs to happen or be today for the future to materialize? What needs to happen today for that to happen tomorrow? That's the goal for making decisions from your future. When it comes to mind chatter reframing, the language we use internally is just as important, if not more important, than the words we choose to speak aloud. So I want you to start really becoming aware of the negative words that you choose. So, like, I can't, I won't, I don't know. Instead, flip them into questions. So when we use words like I can't, our brain actually just quits. They're like, oh, I can't. Okay, well, there's no point in thinking anymore. Like, I'm done. Next. If we take something like that and flip it to how can I, really feel into that. You like your brain wants to solve it. If you present a problem to your brain, it is wired to try and solve it. If you give it a closed end question or statement, then it just shuts off and is ready for the next thing. That's why we swipe so quickly. There isn't anything that is making our brain work on these things. It's just mindless entertainment that keeps our brain busy and therefore numbs us. So, um, if you want to invest, for example, in the Life Lab Mastery, but you say, oh, I can't afford it. I hear you. But what if you turn that into how can I afford to get into this course? See what happens. Apply this. These are tiny, simple shifts, not easy, but simple shifts. I love post it notes. This is how I started with the mind shifts. They're kind of all over the place to cue myself to make these tiny little tweaks. And this last one is the hardest one, the let go of when. Okay. You can give it a timeline. I just don't want you to be extremely attached to it. What I mean is, I want you to be flexible with it. So if you say, I want to make $100,000 in a year, give yourself the freedom to make that year not mean December. What if a year runs from May to next April? What if it's from August to next June? What if you just stick to the idea of a year or better, right? So you're still giving it some sort of time, but not a concrete, definitive time. It's not December 31st. It's not, January 28th. It's there's some time there, but there's flexibility into it. It's more important to be attached to the feeling of when it gets to you than it is the date that you're expecting it to get there. Expectations are really poison to us. And this is a hard pill that I've swallowed. Let me tell you, I have extremely high expectations of myself. I also have expectations of others, which has destroyed relationships for me. Um, and it's made my current relationship bumpy at times because I expect certain things. And what makes worse with our expectations is very rarely do we communicate them properly. So, remove the expectation and instead tap into the feeling of what it will be like when it gets here, more or less within a year, 6 months, a season, whatever that looks like. This is my favorite part because this is what changed everything for me. From my 6 vision boards a year to getting really clear. And honestly, I just kept making the same mistakes over and over and expecting a different result. And as Albert Einstein has pointed out, that literally is the definition of insanity, which is a very good description of what I felt like when I kept doing it and nothing was changing. And the reason so many of these vision boards end up in the graveyard of dreams by the end of January is because we're doing them out of an egotistical place, right? Like we talked about earlier, ego manifestation is not energetically aligned to having those things materialize in your life. It is actually coming from a place of chasing after it, being in lack, neediness. You literally cannot chase and attract at the same time. Think about when you were dating, okay? If you were on a date with a guy or a girl and you sat down and you instantly started drilling them about, when do you want to get married and how many kids do you want to have and where do you want to live and what would happen? Like, do you think you would ever get a phone call after that? I know I wouldn't call you if I got bombarded with questions like that. Or if you went on a date and then called them that night and then again in the morning. It sends out such a need vibe, it automatically repels what you're chasing because it's just not aligned. There's no mutual desire to come together. So the pivot to make the vision board start working for me was to get really deep inside myself and realize that it wasn't about the pictures on the board and the things that I wanted, right? It wasn't about the material things. A lot of my old vision boards would have like a car, and then every time I looked at it, I'd be like, yeah, car, I love that car. The white color's great. And that was the feeling. I don't have that car yet. It's gonna be great when I have that car. Oh, it'd be so nice if I already had that car. Um, the shoes, the house, it had that same energy to it. And I thought, this is right. Like I'm focusing on that house. I can see it. It's got a black door. Yeah, I'm doing it. And that is such an ego place to be doing it from. I instead want you to understand that your vision board is actually about feeling it. Manifestation comes down to reprogramming your subconscious, okay? And in order to do that, we need to use our emotions. We need to feel the pictures that we choose. At the end of today's training, I'm going to share with you my vision board. And I'll kind of describe to you why I chose the pictures, and hopefully that'll give you another example of what I mean by feeling my pictures. The next mistake that I made and I still see is you're only relying on your vision board. Okay. Vision boards or dream boards, whatever you want to call them, like any other law of attraction tool, are simply a part of the manifestation process. To make the manifestation happen, you need to do the work. You need to take action. You need to remove the blocks that you have and set the right kind of goals and the steps to get you there, right? You need actionable steps to take that are working you towards there. If you've followed me on Instagram, I posted multiple times now because it's such a good visual, the story of the man that drowned. And if you haven't seen it, I'll very quickly share it with you. If you've seen it, go ahead, go grab a drink or coffee. Um, but the story goes there was a man that was in a flood, and a rescue boat came by and asked him to get in. And he said, "Oh, no, thank you. The Lord will save me." So the boat left. Soon after, the helicopter came, and the helicopter dropped the ladder and told him to climb aboard. The water's rising, get in here. And he sent them away saying, "No, no, no, I don't need you. The Lord will save me." So they went ahead and helped other people. Well, the floods continued to grow and his home was whisked away. And he finally arrives at the pearly gates and sees God and says, "What's the big deal? Like, I believed in you. I had faith in you. I trusted in you. And you failed me. You let me die. How come you didn't help me?" And the Lord looks at him and snickers and basically says, "But I sent you a boat. I sent you a helicopter. You chose not to take action and get into them." How great. Like, you don't have to be religious. You can use whatever terminology you want, source, universe, but how powerful is that story to show you that we need to work in conjunction with the universe? Universe moves, you move. Universe moves, you move. It has to be a combined effort. It's not one or the other. And the last mistake, you're not updating your vision board enough. If you want a successful vision board, then keeping it relevant is absolutely essential. This is why in the Life Lab Mastery, we're actually going to be doing this at least twice this year. So my vision boards are typically within a 6 to 8 month time frame, only because too far into the future, you lose interest. It just you become blind to the vision and the feeling on there. The connection is lost. Nothing is happening. You lose that vibration, right? And sometimes it's just not realistic for that to happen. Like, I know that in 6 months I'm not going to lose 50 pounds. It's unrealistic. It wouldn't be healthy. I would be probably hospitalized if that happened. And on the flip side of that is if you make them too early, you end up worrying about how it's going to happen so soon. And then again, you're in that lack vibration. So pick the 6 to 8 month time frame for the majority of your clippings, and focus on those and make sure they're within reach, right? Like I just said, the 50-pound thing. Or, if you're living in a small townhouse like I grew up in, I wouldn't slap a 12-bedroom mansion on my vision board because it's just such a huge vibrational gap at this point that you're just setting yourself up for failure and you're disconnected from it. Okay, so just to recap here, we've got calendar, we're flipping it on its head. Your work schedule might work by the most current calendar, but when it comes to our dreams and manifestation, we're adopting a whole new calendar, and it actually doesn't start for another couple of months. So you've got time. You've got time to plan your year and make it the greatest year yet. Okay. We talked about the trifecta, the 3 areas of our life that we focus on, and that they do not take center stage all at the same time. The first stage of doing this is obviously data mining, right? So we have our vision board, our feeling to magnetize it. Um, so now, the big question, Monica, how do we do our vision board? Like I said, the images you select must be based on intuition and feeling. If you're drawn to a picture, there's an emotional connection to it. Pick that picture, okay? And whenever you look at it, you'll have that feeling. It's intuition. Now, as you do your stuff and then you get to the clipping your image section, I have a really hot tip for you. It also made a humongous difference on visualization and having that emotional connection with the images I have. I don't recommend using images of yourself. Here's why. It prevents the board from working properly. Hear me out. Having pictures of you is you trapped energetically in that time, right? So you're trapped in the past. You can't come out of that. Wild, right? It prevents us from producing powerful emotions because when we look up a picture, we're actually transported to when that picture was taken. You can't be in the past and the future at the same time. Instead, pick images that are similar to you, your body shape, your hair color, and go even further and only select images that don't have direct profiles. So if you look at this picture that I have here, which is one of my favorite pictures on my board, this person, you can't make out that face. I can feel that that's me in that hammock because it's just a silhouette of a woman reading. So that is very powerful in helping me place myself in there. In addition to images, go ahead and select descriptive words of who you are becoming and what feelings you want to have on a regular basis in your life. So, like I said at the end, I'm going to share mine with you and we'll go into examples there based on mine. But reserve the words for adjectives and emotions when putting them on your vision board. Uh, and be specific, okay? Like, in addition to this image, me being able to visualize myself as this woman, I can feel the heat of the sun and the evening breeze off the ocean. Like, just staring at this image, I literally feel my muscles relax and my worries kind of slip away. I can feel myself being abundant in money, in time, and in love. Like, it's very specific to what I want. It's specific feeling that I want to feel. It's also a place I want to be, somewhere hot with palm trees. I love palm trees. Palm trees just make me smile. And lastly, one of the best places for images that you can be specific in is Pinterest. I love Pinterest. I will start a new folder for whatever year I'm creating a vision board, dump a bunch in there, and then go back in and see which ones my intuition really picks up on and is drawn to before I add them to my final vision board. So before I share my board with you, I just want to quickly show you what the year at a glance is for the Life Lab Mastery, the where we unlocked a blueprint for integrated living and business success. This is an all-around program. It's a year long. There's lots of stuff being dropped into it throughout the year, but we do have 4 dates here where we are connecting live in the Zoom room. We can have conversations. You bring your coffee. We will sit. We will chat. Accountability, just girl therapy as we chat it out and pour it out and discuss everything. So again, don't worry about screenshotting these. You are getting this PDF, and the link to join is right here. These are the dates for this upcoming year. So, as promised, I am going to wrap this up by sharing my vision board with you and explaining it to you in hopes that it inspires you to pick the pictures that resonate with you best. Welcome to my 2024 vision board. I fucking love this board. It just makes me feel like I'm buzzing inside when I look at it. So, even though some of this stuff is material, like this ring here, this is a health ring. I want the ring, but what the ring really signifies to me is vitality and longevity. Taking care of myself, sleeping properly, because that's why I want the ring. It's to track my sleep and my stress levels. Is making sure I drink enough water. The yoga one here, I forget to stretch sometimes, but that feeling when I do, excuse me, it just feels so great. And I know the good that I'm doing for my bones and my ligaments. And because there's rheumatoid arthritis in my family, this is super important to me. Okay. My goal, financial goal, this is part of my financial freedom plan. Be bold. That is big, big for me. That's why it's right in the middle. Be bold, be myself. I spent so many years people pleasing because I was in survival mode. I am finally stepping into just being quirky me. I say dumb crap sometimes. I'm a little controversial at best a lot of the time. It's who I am. I love that about myself. And I need to accept that I want to only be around people that also love that about me. There's my beautiful picture of me in the hammock when I want to go on vacation. I want to spend next December away with my family, doing Christmas a whole lot different. This right here is all about relationships, best friend relationship. This is the relationship I love the show. If you know the show, this is the relationship I want to have with my kids. It really warms. This image is all about what the feeling is of having that amazing relationship with my children. This one's all about shadow work and finally releasing the past, just breathing out that shadow that lives within me that is trying to hold me back and stepping into being reborn as the phoenix. So thank you so much, everybody. Happy clipping. Please reach out. Let me know. Share your board with me. I would so love to see your boards. And remember, the only person you are destined to be is the person you decide to be. Cheers, guys, and happy clipping.